I hope you enjoyed that first segment. We're moving on to our second segment of the day. We got John Kennedy here. God, this guy just keeps coming up in my feed, folks. He's amazing. Well, there's this idea that these Democrats and progressive leftists want the wealthy to pay their fair share. If you look at like the top 10% of taxpayers, they pay virtually all net tax here in the United States. Like the bottom 50% they pay like under 5% tax or something like that. Don't quote me on that exact amount, but it's extremely, extremely small. So now they want to tax big corporations. And Kennedy here brings up a great point of, if that's the case, then why is everybody leaving blue states? Why are the wealthy leaving blue states and going to red states? Watch your reaction.
Dr. Is it Clausen? Clausen?
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you and Dr. Yagan, why do y'all want to punish wealthy people?
I think I can speak for both of us that we're not interested in punishing anyone. We're interested
Well,
in
you're
having
interested
a
in taxing
fiscal
the hell out of them
system.
more than anybody else.
I think
Why,
the
what makes you
reforms
think?
that Professor
What makes you think that making tax policy on the basis of class or status makes sense?
I think it's a very American phenomena that throughout the history of the income tax, we have valued progressivity, and our current income tax does that. We used to rely on things like tariffs to raise revenue. Tariffs are regressive consumption taxes that disproportionately hurt the poor. Like, we believe in this country that those with the greater ability to pay should pay more of the burden. And that's part of what a healthy capitalism does. It enables people to gain from things like trade and technological change and business innovation, and to contribute a little more to the fiscal system when they're very successful in doing so. And I think that that's a very legitimate way to structure the tax system.
Can I ask you a question?
I personally think that she's misconstruing the idea of it being healthy. Somebody can appear to be healthy, but in reality, they're actually really sick. And I think that when you increase taxes on the wealthy, that actually hurts innovation, and that actually hurts expansion of whatever corporation you're talking about that's being taxed up the wazoo. And I'd like to point out, I think it's Bernie Sanders said that he wants 100% of people's money. Anything, basically, once they cross the threshold of $1 billion, anything past that goes directly to the government. So that's a sickness in terms of you hurting a corporation or an entity or a person by having a certain threshold. There's not going to be any desire then to innovate and ultimately expand and ultimately reinvest into a company when you know that anything past a certain point, the government's just going to take it. In the same way here is she wants to increase and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Again, they can never give an idea or an exact amount of what their fair share should be. It's very rare. The fact that Bernie Sanders actually came out and gave a specific number is extremely rare, but at least he's honest. I'll give him that. But this lady is really disingenuous here. And again, I think she's missing the mark here by saying it's healthy when in actuality, somebody can appear being healthy, but in reality is very sick. And I'll give you a prime example of what I mean by that. If you look at a lot of people's personal finances, somebody could be rolling around in an Escalade, like an extremely nice car. They have a nice house. It might appear that they're healthy financially, but in reality, they're not healthy at all. And that tends to actually be the case where 8 in 10 Americans are actually living paycheck to paycheck. And that threshold basically rolls over into somebody making 6-figure income as well. So almost regardless of income, the vast majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, but they look as if they're healthy, but financially they're actually sick. So that's just to correlate what's happening here, at least what my opinion is in terms of what's being said.
Yes.
Why do you think so many wealthy people are leaving New York City?
New York City is, an incredible city of innovation, immigration, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but why are so many wealthy people leaving?
I think there are big advantages to living near centers of entrepreneurial activity, and we see that on the west.
You think they're leaving to be nearer to centers of entrepreneurial activity, do you?
Well, I don't think there are a lot of people, fleeing New York City. That New York City has.
Sure, there are. There are thousands. I mean, there've been study after study after study. Why are so many wealthy people leaving New York City?
I think there's an enormous number of wealthy people who are in New York City and continue.
But why are so many leaving?
I can't speip to why particular people.
I can tell you why.
That just shows you right there that she doesn't want to have an honest conversation. Again, it says a tax law and policy, right? The chair in tax law and policy. she's not being honest here. And you can't have a conversation, especially with somebody that wants to create policy or give some sort of advice on tax policy. You can't have a conversation, nor should these people actually be involved in any of these conversations, because it just shows you how disingenuous they are. And it shows the bias and the ultimate objective that they want to do. It actually just cripple this country from the inside out. They won't admit that they do, but just shows you right there with that one question, they can't be trusted.
Why? It's taxes. You know that as well as I do. It's
I think if you look at the economic,
some of it's crime, but most of it is taxes.
well,
People vote with their feet. The same reason that people are leaving California and moving to Austin.
If you look at California, it's one of the most successful economies in the world, and it continues to be so. It attracts people.
But they're losing.
The only reason it's extremely successful is because of the ports. You have one of the biggest ports in the world, the Port of Long Beach, which isn't too far from my home. If you remove the ports and I mean, just geographically, we got lucky, right? Being on the coast here at the state of California and having these ports. If you remove that, California is nothing. California, yes, I think is one of the biggest agriculture producers in the United States. One of the biggest, or at least used to be. I don't know what it is now. But outside of that, I mean, really, they have nothing. California has nothing. The what are you gonna say? The film industry here in Los Angeles, that's pretty much been outsourced to Georgia, Toronto, New Mexico as well. It's just a lot cheaper, a lot more tax incentives there. So to say that we have a good economy, by the way, we have a deficit right now. So you can't say that we have a good economy. Again, this idea that we're healthy all the time is not true. We have a sickness. We appear to be healthy, but in reality, we are not.
People.
I don't think it's in any danger of decline, nor is New York City. And these are very vibrant places.
I don't think we're going to ever agree.
Reasons. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to ever agree. But I appreciate the time of all three of you.
Thank you.
To be fair, there also are people moving the other way. There are people who move to New York. They just don't all leave from New York. It's a two-way street in and out of New York. And it's a two-way street between Austin and California. People leave Texas and go to California, and some of them do very well.
Well, that's true, Sheldon, but I can't.
That is true, but you still have a net negative. You have a net loss in the state of California of like 100,000 or more leaving every year than you do people coming in. So you have people coming in, and that might be due to work or whatever, but you also have wealthy people leaving the state of California like no other. And we know that too, just one, obviously because of the studies that are out there, but also too, if you look at kind of where people are moving in other states, there's a reason why the housing market has gone up through the roof. It's because people are selling their property here, wealthy people, and they're ultimately going somewhere else in the United States. I mean, it is so obvious, you guys, which is amazing to me, that these people can't actually be honest in terms of why people leave from one state, predominantly blue states, and go to red states or states that have no income tax, state income tax or state tax. That we all know why they go there. I mean, financially, you'd be an idiot if you have a lot of money to stay in the state of California or like New York City, for example. Why would you? The state tax on that is through the roof. When you can go somewhere else, you just saved anywhere from 10 to 15% or more just by moving to another state, and you're talking millions of dollars.
I can show you study after study after study, as you well know, and as the professor knows. It shows that people are leaving high-tax states and moving to low-tax states. All you have to do is
Well, they also leave.
all you have to do is look at the demographics. Pick the 9 states that have, say, a state income tax, and compare that, or that don't have a state income tax, and compare that to the states that do. It's called tax avoidance, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly legal.
People have different preferences. You know, if you look at where immigrants choose to live in the United States, they often go to those same places that you were talking about. You know, so I do think that, you know, there's movement in both directions.
Yeah, but here's my point.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the conversation was around wealthy people. If you listen to what the tax policy lady was saying, as well as the other senator, they're talking about not necessarily wealthy people. They could be talking about middle to lower income people. The whole thing was talking about wealthy people leaving, and those are who you want to tax. You want to tax the big corporations. You want to tax the wealthy, which is why Amazon didn't go to where AOC was, because she wanted to tax them up the wazoo. They basically fled the area. You have Elon Musk leaving the state of California, going to Texas and other places that are more business friendly. It's obvious in terms of why people are leaving these states, and they don't want to admit it.
Here's what I think rational people do, and here's what I bet all three of you would do, and I bet Sheldon would do it because he's a smart guy. Okay. If he won the lottery tomorrow and won $10 million and paid his taxes and has $6 million left, he's going to at least consider, you are too, moving to Florida. Because
I
they don't have
wouldn't.
a state income tax.
For the record, no, I wouldn't. Never crossed my mind.
Well, most rational, well, I don't mean you're irrational. So, you know
No,
that.
he's
But-
irrational.
It's quite rational to not want to
But
live
when
in
you're
Florida right
liquid,
now.
when you're liquid, and you don't have to pay a 6% off the top versus 0%, it's a rational economic move, is it not?
I agree. It's rational. I mean, the thing about taxes that we're talking about is they're a cost or a price, and so claiming that this cost or price doesn't matter is essentially throwing out the very basic law of demand, the basic fundamental idea in economics. The prices matter. The costs matter.
See, this is what this always boils down to, and there's no way we'll ever agree, okay?
They won't agree, and they're being disingenuous. And this guy's going to give the basic economics 101 between supply, cost, demand, price, and all that other stuff. At the end of the day, they're being disingenuous. The fact that you would sit there, and it was a silly example, but his point was made here by Senator Kennedy, is that if you were to win the lottery, you would be foolish to not at least consider going to a state that has zero it's like state tax. You'd be insane. If you went to your financial advisor, all of them would say, yeah, you probably want to get out of the state of California. You could stay here. You're going to take a massive hit, an extremely massive hit, or you can go somewhere else. That's why you see Tiger Woods. That's why you see all these NBA professionals, sports athletes go to those states because they're saving, a ton of money. And these people are going to be disingenuous. So amazing. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.